Welcome, my name is Rachel. I'm so glad that you're here with us at the Salem online campus. We have an incredible message for you today. Let's join in.
We are in our series, This is the Kingdom, and I'm going to do my best to teach as much as possible. I really want you to walk away with a firm understanding. We have to realize that the church at large, when I say the church at large, I mean the bride of Christ. Because I said it last week that there are some of his in every church, but not every church is his church. We have to understand that there is a remnant of believers in the earth today that are hungering and thirsting for righteousness. There's a remnant of believers in the earth today that want to see on earth as it is in heaven. And so we have to realize that maybe the message that we've been receiving from the modern church, when I say the modern church, I don't mean churches that simply have colored lights and fog machines and worship bands where it's 100 decibels at concert level. That's not what I mean. But this newfangled, easy believism church, right? When I say the modern church, I don't just mean them, but I also am not meaning to leave out a traditional church that is full of dead bones and dry, and there's no life on the inside of it. There is something in between the two. There is a church that is His church, that wants to see something happen in the earth, that wants to see God move and wants to see God operate, and is not pacified by just mundane church as usual, not pacified with just like, hey, this is what we always do. Like, you can pick out exactly what's going to happen. We're going to file in, and we're going to do like 2 songs, and then this is going to happen, and then we're going to have a message, and we're going to go out, and we're never going to have our toes stepped on. It's going to be the same thing. We're going to get a nice feel-good message where we walk out and we feel better about ourselves, and we're never prompted and prodded to dig into the Word, to dig into what God has. We're never given a word from heaven. We got leftovers, but we never have fresh manna. We never have fresh bread. Okay? We have a myriad of what's the way to say different lengths of time of people studying the Word. So some of what I'm saying, if you're like new in your walk in relationship with the Lord, there's some things that I might say today that you're like, I don't really get it. Just hang on. Just hold on, okay? But at some point, we have to leave the shores and step out into deeper waters and start understanding that God is doing something out in the deep, and He wants to call us out from the ease of the shoreline. It wants to call us out into where, because on the shore, where I'm standing on the beach, I'm in control of where I go. But the further I get out, there's a current of the Spirit. There's a move of the Spirit where He becomes in control, and He pushes us and moves us where He needs us to be. Does that make sense? And so there's this discontentment from what's been offered by the modern church. And we even looked at last week in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. This is my recap time, so like this doesn't say, you can't pull, Brother JC, you can't pull this off my preach time. This is recap. So this is just to bring us all up to speed, right? So we looked at Genesis 1 and 2, and it's more than maybe just a creation story and a chronological timeline of how creation started. But it was the original implementation of on earth as it is in heaven. We see that God is establishing order in the middle of chaos and then delegates the authority to do the same thing to humanity, Adam and Eve. It says, be fruitful and multiply. Guard and grow the garden. Fill the earth. Subdue it. Take dominion over the earth. He gives instructions to Adam, and he says, every living creature, you name whatever it's going to be. And in pattern after what Adam would have received from God of calling those things which be not as though they are. Light be and light was. Let there be separation between the heavens and the earth, and there was. Let there be stars in the sky, and there was. Now it's Adam's turn. Hey, whatever it is that you call it, that's what it's going to be. So if you want to call it a giraffe, it's a giraffe. If you want to call it a duck-billed platypus, it's a duck-billed platypus. Adam, I don't understand why, but if that's what you're feeling, then go for it, right? If you want to call it whatever, aardvark, I don't know, like whatever it is, a lizard, right? You know, parakeet. I don't know where he came up. He just did. But he's patterning himself of speaking to something that is nothing and watching something come out of it. Now, because humanity relinquished the authority delegated to it, humanity had to reclaim it. And this is the work that Jesus did. Do we have Galatians 4? Galatians 4, maybe? Am I wrong? Yeah. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his son, watch here, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law. Humanity let go of the authority. Humanity had to reclaim the authority. It wasn't God coming down to fix us. It was God inserting himself in the earth and living under the parameters of being human just like you and I. This is why Jesus could be tempted in all manner like we are, yet was without sin. So he knows exactly what you've gone through. He knows the frustrations you have. He knows the issues that you face every day. This is why he's a friend that sticks closer than a brother, because he knows exactly what you are going through because he went through it himself. Humanity relinquished the authority. Humanity had to reclaim the authority. So this is what this is. Born of a woman, born under the law to redeem those who were under the law. But here's where it gets real good. So that we might receive adoption as sons. Next verse. And because you are sons, God has sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father, so that you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. Here's where we understand delegated authority. I am the son of David and Julia Waskowitz. They live however many paces from the church, right? I don't have to call my mom and dad to go over to their house and walk in and get something out of the fridge. Why? I'm a son. I'm an heir. I have access because of my connection with them. What this is saying is now you are sons and daughters, and you have access because of who you're connected to. He reclaimed the authority let go at the fall of humanity. But now because you are an heir, you are a son and a daughter, you can then operate in the authority that was lost in Eden. It has been reclaimed. You now have access to walk in that authority again. This is why you can start speaking to the noise and nonsense at work in your life, attempting to do its best to pull your marriage apart, I said I was going to teach, attempting to do his best to pull your children apart and cause issues on the inside of them. You can show up to work operating as an heir in delegated authority, and you show up. And what we're going to learn today is it's not you doing anything, it's you just operating in your authority. You just being who you already are. You don't have to go get it, you already are. Does that make sense? And so this is why in Mark 4, when Jesus is asleep on the bow of the boat, okay? And the disciples wake him because there's a storm going on around him. He wakes up. He rebukes the wind. And what does he do? He speaks to the waves and says, peace, be still. And what happens? The wind and waves die down. And the disciples are thrown for a loop asking, who is this man that the wind and waves obey him? What was it? Creation's ears had heard the voice of delegated authority operating again in the earth. So it immediately halted in its steps and halted in its progress because humanity was operating in dominion. Does that make sense? Dominion that was given in Eden was now being operated on a boat on the Sea of Galilee. That's what that entire picture is. And I want to let you know, why is there so much chaos in the world? Watch. Because creation is groaning for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God to be revealed in the earth. Creation is all out of whack because the sons and daughters of God need to step up into authority and start speaking order and light into darkness, order into chaos. Romans 8, 19 through 21. For the earnest expectation of creation eagerly awaits for the revealing of the sons of God. Against its will, everything on earth was subjected to God's curse. In Eden, all creation anticipates the day when it will join God's children in glorious freedom. This is not the message that the modern church has offered you. This is not the message. They've told you just show up, be a better you, be a good you, and you become a good person, and that's enough. Where this is saying that creation is anticipating the sons and daughters who are free, who have found freedom from death and decay. Creation is anticipating. You know why your kids need boundaries? Because they thrive in order. Creation, all at chaos right now, thrives in order. Who establishes order in the earth? Sons and daughters. Sons and daughters establish order. Why? Because that was the original implementation of on earth as it is in heaven. Does that make sense? Am I explaining the Bible for some people? Am I confusing others? Like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Never heard such things in my life. Come on. Sons and daughters who are heirs have access to what? Authority. And then to walk out the authority that they've been given. This is why you are a walking, breathing, talking Ark of the Covenant, carrying the creative capability and the power of God on the inside of you because you carry His presence with you everywhere that you go. That's what happens. That's why it's so important. Why? Because for the 52% of the people on the other side of our stained glass windows that have yet to encounter the presence of Jesus, they need the order that you will speak into the chaos of their lives. They need the structure that you will speak into the chaos and brokenness of their life. They need you to show up operating in your purpose and operate. Nathan, there's no way I could do it. Come on now. No one can make me doubt whose kid I am. I know exactly who my mom and dad are. You can't talk me out of it. Nathan, you really can't go over there and just walk in their house. Oh, yes, I can. You can't. You'll catch 80 pounds of fur and teeth. Maybe a 12-gauge buckshot. I don't know. I don't know what you'll catch. I won't, though. Why? Because I have authority there. Same reason I can't just come waltz over to your house and just barge in the front door. Who are you and why are you in my home? That is the operation mindset of the sons and daughters of God in the earth. That's what we should be doing. Does that make sense, church? Does that make sense? I told you you're going to have to write a lot of notes today, right? So here's the thing. We then have to understand what the kingdom sounds like, what the kingdom looks like, how the kingdom thinks, because some of us need to change our thinking. We need to adjust our mindset when we encounter a situation. Maybe the way we've been encountering situations is more indicative of our old nature that we should be crucifying daily. So no wonder there's no authority when we walk into it because we're encountering it in an old mindset. But when we show up when we know the kingdom, when we understand what it looks like, what it sounds like, how it operates, how it functions, we show up and we know what we have authority to do, and we know what we have authority not to do. Does that make sense? So we have to know what the kingdom looks like. There's $70 million in counterfeit currency at large every single day. Some in the United States, by and large, the bulk of it is outside the United States. But those that work in the U.S. Treasury, their job is to work with identifying counterfeit bills, $1 bills, $5, $10, I'm trying to think. Ones, fives, all I carry is like my card. I don't know. Ones, fives, 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s, right? Did you know that out of the 70 million that is in circulation in currency, they don't study the 70 million. They study the authentic. They become so familiar with what is real. They become so acquainted with what is actual that they can spot the fake from a mile away. Now, there are systems, I get it. We've got bankers, people that have worked with money that are mathematically so much smarter than I am, right? And the little markers, like you give them a 50 and they mark on it and they hold it up to the light and they do all that, like all that fun stuff. I don't know anything about that. I just know that the U.S. Treasury doesn't study the counterfeit. They study the authentic. So that the authentic, you can't confuse it with anything else. And the problem is that the modern church has caused such confusion by being counterfeit to what the kingdom actually does, what the kingdom actually says, how the kingdom actually operates. We need to get a firm grasp and understanding of what the kingdom looks like. So that's why we're going to look at it today. That's why we're going to look at what does the kingdom look, sound, and operate like? How does it function? Here's the first thing. We have to know what the kingdom looks and sounds like so that we can put it in action in the world around us. So here, I need you to get your pens out, get your phones out, get ready to take notes. Because the first thing that the kingdom looks like, the kingdom is active. Write it down. Active, A-C-T-I-V-E. If you write it on your neighbor's arm, it'll help you both remember. I think that's a funny joke, and no one ever giggles at that. I got more giggles out of the 9 o'clock than I did. There are pity giggles in the 9 o'clock than I did the 10:30 right now. I just think it really would be funny if like somebody just leaned over and started writing on someone else's arm. Just someday, Lord. Right? The kingdom is active. What do I mean? Let me say it this way. The modern church is passive, has no action. Right? Here's how Jesus described the kingdom, the active church. It says in Matthew 13:33, he told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like leaven that a woman took and hid in 3 measures of flour till it was all leavened. I'm not much of a cook, or even a baker. Okay, some of the folks that have been around here a hot minute they're like, oh, bless his heart. He can't make Kraft macaroni and cheese, and all you do is add water. Okay, it's hard for some people. Not all of us are wired to do that. Okay? But I can Google things. Yeast is what it talks about when it says leaven. Yeast is it's a pervasive influence inside the dough. You add the yeast to the dough and it begins a reaction, a chain reaction, to where it's actually what causes the yeast or the dough to rise. And watch, you insert this active ingredient, this pervasive influence into the substance, and what happens? It begins to move. It begins to operate. Where it was flat, it begins to elevate. Where it looked lifeless, it begins to move all on its own because something has been induced into it. Something has been placed on the inside of it. And here, the thing starts to move, mold, and operate. That's how the kingdom is. You don't have to be Pastor Nathan, Pastor David, Pastor Mike, Pastor Denzel, and Pastor Christina. You don't have to have the title to be active in the kingdom. Guess what you do? You just show up as a king's kid, as a son and a daughter, and the kingdom alive on the inside of you, it begins to influence the surroundings around you. What does that sound like? It sounds like when you get around people and they're like, hey, you go to that one church where the pastor's like really loud. He says he's going to teach, but then he starts to preach and starts spitting all over the front 2 rows. You go to that church, don't you? And you're like, yeah, yes, that's him. Pretty accurate description, right? And here's what they say. Could you guys pray for me? I've got this situation. Did you do anything? No. You showed up, and because the kingdom is at work on the inside of you, it is a pervasive influence into that which it is placed. You being inserted into begin to activate, watch, and elevate everything that is flat and lifeless. You show up and they're like, I don't know why, I just need to talk to somebody. Can I talk to you? Man, I'm going through some stuff. Like you are carrying around a sign that says, come talk to me. Come lay your burdens on my shoulder. I have an ear to listen. Why? Because on the inside of you is working scriptures like all who are weary and heavy laden, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. It's at work on the inside of you, so you become a conduit of heaven into earth. So they just come across your path, and all of a sudden, they encounter the kingdom at work in you. Does that make sense? We think that we have to tell people John 3:16, and that is the kingdom being active. No, they need to see John 3:16 on the inside of you by how you respond and react to the world around you, and your actions just by being will win them through the love of Jesus. Does that make sense? That is the kingdom being active. That's what it is. You're not actually doing anything, but just being. You're showing up. You're showing up and you're causing all hell to break loose around you because you are walking in delegated authority. Does that make sense? Here, it is a... Now, don't confuse, hear me, listen to me. Don't confuse a decision of saying yes to Jesus as the same thing as following Jesus. The kingdom's active. What the modern church has offered is make a decision for Jesus. Next week we'll baptize you, right? But they never preach follow him. They preach make a decision for him. Well, how many? Just raise your hand all around the room. How many of you have ever made a New Year's resolution? The whole room, right? The whole room. You contemplated the resolution. You made a decision on the resolution. But how many times, we're over halfway through January. Don't raise your hands on this one. How many of your resolutions have been left by the wayside in 2023 alone? Because there's a difference between making a decision and actually following. And the kingdom being active is not just about making a decision for Jesus, it's about following Jesus. It's about when he says lay down. It's about, here, husbands. Let me show you the word in action, the kingdom in action. Wives, submit to your husbands. We can quote that part real good. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Here is the action and the following. What does that mean? That means that the church that Jesus loves, he died for. That means when you're right and she's wrong, die. I hear all the ladies, yeah, you better preach. tell him. What do I mean? Husbands, love her enough to lay down even if you think she's wrong. Because isn't that what Jesus did? Didn't he lay down even though they were wrong? That's a quick picture of the difference between I made a decision for Jesus and I'm actually following Jesus. Man, you will revolutionize in 73 weeks of marriage. I have learned this. We just celebrated our 73-week anniversary last Thursday. People are asking why I said that. It's because they don't know I'm terrible with dates. So I just remember every Thursday to add one. Come on, that'll revolutionize your marriage, sir. Lay down. Love her more than you love being right. I don't know who that was for. I'm not a marriage counselor, but I'll let you know that'll reignite the passion. Okay, so, second thing. The kingdom is active. Kingdom is costly. Write it down. The kingdom is costly. It will cost you something. What will it cost you? Everything. The modern church tells you there is no cost to being a quote-unquote disciple. That is not the truth. It will cost you everything. It will cost you every. Do you know that the 12 of the disciples, I think it was 11 of the 12, all martyred, died. It cost them their lives. The modern church, we've made it comfortable. It's 70 degrees in here. The fans are blowing. So there's just a light breeze. It's not, I mean, the Holy Spirit's here, but some of you charismatics are like, I feel the presence. The wind was blowing. It's the HVAC right now. I'm not saying he doesn't do it, but I'm just saying it's the HVAC is on right now. The pews are padded, right? We had good music. We made sure it was at 84 to 85 decibels in the room, and the mix was clean so that you could hear the saxophone and you could hear the electric. We had it perfect. Like, we have done everything we can to make it easy. That's what the modern church has offered. And they've not told you that it costs you everything. It costs you everything. Here's what it sounds like when they say it's easy and it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't take all of that to get Jesus. You don't have to sing that loud in church. Let somebody get really excited about the deliverance and freedom that they're encountering, and just let them start jumping up and down or dancing in the aisle. Watch. And some of us are like, yes. Watch people around them, though, that aren't accustomed to that, like, it doesn't take all that. That's unnecessary. Is it? That's unnecessary? Let's go to the Old Testament, where they were bringing the Ark of the Covenant back to Jerusalem. And the Bible says that David danced before the Lord with all of his might. He literally danced out of his clothes to where all he was wearing at best were his fruit of the loom boxers. Right? Danced before didn't care who was there. He's the king of Israel. He is the guy in the entire nation of Israel. He dances to the point he's in his underwear. His wife, Michal, weird flex, I know, it's just that was her name. Okay, get it? Like, his wife, Michal, goes to him and says, that's not necessary. It doesn't take all that. He responds, I'll be more undignified than this. But here's the spiritual application. From that moment on, Michal was barren the rest of her life. And we've got a lot of people in the modern church who don't know anything about birthing something out of the spiritual realm and into the natural realm. What do I mean? Birthing out the freedom that you need for your family. Birthing out, getting out of the spirit and into the natural, the deliverance that your family needs, the breaking of bondages from addictions and perversions, seeing your family and loved ones come to know Jesus, seeing people that were so far from God come near to him and bend their knee at an old rugged cross. That takes pulling something out of the spiritual realm and into the natural. It's like birthing a baby. She was barren the rest of her life. And people that come around and say, it doesn't take all that, it's unnecessary, are spiritually barren. Don't you ever let somebody that's spiritually barren tell you it doesn't take all that. Don't you ever let somebody that has a spiritually empty womb come along and tell you, you don't need to do all that. There's no reason for you to hop and jump. There's no reason for you to dance before the Lord with all your mind. There's no reason to go down to the altar and cry in the middle of worship. That's unnecessary. Don't ever let them tell you that. Here, let me tell you it's costly. Matthew 3:44 through 46. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. It's 11:31. Have mercy. It's your fault. You let me preach this long. Matthew 13:4. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again. And then in his joy, he went and sold all he had and bought that field. He sold it all. He didn't take anything from that he had. He got rid of it all. It cost him everything. But what he obtained was of far more value than anything he ever let go of and anything he ever had. It was more valuable to him to let go of the things that he had so that he could buy the field. I want to let you know, in Montgomery County, Tennessee, we have people that are gathering, that are selling out and selling all that they have to buy the field and see the kingdom at work in our schools, in our hospitals, and on our jobs and homes. I said I was going to teach. It's costly. Sell the field. Verse 45, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away, sold everything he had, and bought it. How much is your relationship with Jesus worth to you? How much is it worth to you? It's costly. If it's not costly, we should have a conversation at the altar. If it's not the most valuable thing that you possess, we should have a conversation. Here's the kingdom is built for the seeker, not the casual. Matthew, I think it's Matthew. Seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these will be added. What the modern church has offered you is that it's super casual. I'm not saying that you can come in dressed however you want. I was wearing a t-shirt last week and preached in it, and I certainly offended some folks, like, oh, he's a preacher. Should have on his best. It's in a t-shirt. Tattoos showing and all. And you survived because you're back. I'm not saying don't offer God your best. I'm not saying just to discard that. But what I am saying is that you want the kingdom, it's not casual. It's about being intentional. That the kingdom, you see the kingdom in every avenue, lane, and facet of your life. The kingdom is not just for Sunday mornings for an hour and 5 minutes. The kingdom is on your job. The kingdom is in conversations with loved ones. The kingdom is when you're at the hospital with your dad who just had a stroke and nurses and doctors are coming in and you're praying in the moment. How can I implement the kingdom and impact them with the kingdom in this moment? It's about walking in and creating an atmosphere that is conducive for the presence of Jesus so that anybody who walks in that room is there and they don't even know it, but it's like seeds planted in their life that in due time will produce a harvest. That's what it means. It's not casual. It's for the seeker. The kingdom, lastly, is relational. The kingdom's relational. It's active, it's costly, and it's relational. What do I mean? I mean that Romans 14 says that for the kingdom of God is not a matter of eating and drinking. Oh yeah, here we go. A matter of what we eat or drink, but of righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit. Now, this taken in context, Paul is delivering this to the church in Rome made up of Jew and Gentile converts. And what they're doing is they are bickering. Lydia, whoever's coming up here, you guys can do your thing. Whoever, they're bickering back and forth about, some people say, no, you shouldn't do that. You should do this. And this group is saying, no, you shouldn't do that. You should be doing this. Watch. And the church in the epicenter of the world at that point in time is so focused inwardly, fighting back and forth, that they don't have their focus on the kingdom which is around them.
So glad you decided to join us today. If you would like to worship with your giving and help Salem Community Church continue to make an impact in our community, you can text the amount you want to give to the number 84321 or on our website at salemcommunity.church. We at Salem are intent on creating community centered on Christ. Can't wait to see you again next week.